Well, welcome. I'm Matthias Gale. I'm one of the Hero Lab authors, or data file authors. I started back in about 2008 or so. I was started working with 3.5, and then I was the person who took the 3.5 files and turned them into Pathfinder when we got that license. And since then, I've built the Cortex, Call of Cthulhu, Shadowrun 4, and Shadowrun 5 systems in Hero Lab, and done a lot of work in Pathfinder since I was the only Pathfinder person for a while. All right, and this is the more intermediate authoring kit seminar. What I figured I'd start with is how to have the program offer a list of selections to the user, and then how to have the program do a search for you. Like, you want it to find or offer a list like this trait says +1 to choose one of the following skills, any knowledge skill or linguistics, and that skill gets +1 trait bonus and becomes a class skill. And then for searching, things like all knowledge skills may be used untrained would be a thing. I'll show you there. Okay, let's do this on a trait. Give it a name that starts with name that starts with A, so it's quick to find in the trait list. Let's make it simply a combat trait so that it'll sort to the top of the list. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to offer a selection to the user of all the knowledge skills and the linguistic skill. So what we're going to do is go back to the main Hero Lab window, and on the Skills tab, add several knowledge skills. And linguistics is already on there. I'm also going to add some craft skills, perform, and profession, because I want to show you things that are similar to what you're searching for, but are not what you're searching for. Then you can start looking for what does everything you're searching for have in common that it doesn't share with everything that you're not searching for. Okay, in the develop menu, you can make sure that enable data file debugging is turned on. That lets you get at the debugging information that we're going to use to figure out how to find the skill we're after. Okay, once you've turned on enable data file debugging, you can right-click on most of the things inside Hero Lab, and you'll get a list of options. Show debug tags. So again, tags are like post-it notes that you place on a thing in Hero Lab that says, this is this sort of thing, or this should have this behavior, or this should not have this behavior. The fields are all the data values, like all the numbers that are stored inside a thing, and all the text, like the name and the things like that. The debug tasks is all the different scripts that are running on that specific thing. So, for example, on a skill, you have actually quite a lot of them these days. So, like pre-levels 1000, here's a script named assign helper.class skill based on class skill tags on hero. So that's when if your class or your archetype says this is a class skill, they will tell the hero this skill should be a class skill, and then at pre-levels 1000, the skill goes up to the hero and says, hey, should we be a class skill? Oh, yes. Okay, we are. Okay. And the last thing in there, copy unique ID to clipboard. Always handy when you're looking for a specific item and you need its ID. Just go to the regular Hero Lab, find it, right click, grab the ID, then you can go back to the editor and paste it in. Okay, so what we want is something unique to all of the knowledge skills and the linguistic skill that does not appear on anywhere else in the entirety of Hero Lab, entirety of a character on Hero Lab. So right click and show debug tags, and then make that window a bit bigger so we can read them all. So the first thing we want to do is filter down to a broad category of things that includes what we're after. In this case, we'll first filter down to just skills. So the first thing you look at is all the tags named component. The component tags are how, when you're defining a game system, the component tags define various sets of behaviors that you can just plug into a set something. So in this case, we're looking for a component tag that appears to be just, or recognizes just the skills. In this case, it's easy. Component.base skill is what we're after. Let me give you some other examples of the components, like on, come on. Weapons are a bit more complex and have lots of components, but you can see here is component.normal weapon, non-magical weapons, component.base weapon, things like that. And if you were searching for all weapons, you'd probably want to search based on component.base weapon as your first search term, and maybe base equip if you were looking for all equipable items. All right. So back to the editor. The item selection section here in the editor is where you're going to where you're going to set up drop-down menus like this. And the select from is basically pre-built selections for you to just choose from a list. We're going to make our own, so we're going to use the custom expression. So the first thing we want to filter for is component.base skill. So we'll just filter down to all the skills. And then restrict the list to. There are three options here. The first one is not used much. The next one is all picks on hero. Okay. So once something gets added to a character, it is a pick on the hero. And in this case, we want to make modifications to one. Once we select this skill, we're going to want to make modifications to it. We want to add a trait bonus to it. We want to make it a class skill. So we want the version of the skill that's picked that's on the hero, or on this character. The other option you'll often use is all things. Things is the database of potential things that could be added to a character. So that would be the list of every skill that exists in the game. However, we couldn't actually make changes, because if we tell that it's a class skill, doesn't matter to this character that the database, or it only matters to this character if it's made the class skill. So we want all picks on hero for this one. Save that, and then we're going to, since that will offer us a list of every skill in the game to select from, that's not what we want. So let's find something that's unique to all the knowledge skills. So I'm going to right click a few knowledge skills and open their tags. and then I'm going to right click a perform skill, open its tags, so that we can, because we want to find something that is on the one list and isn't on the other list. So looking through this list of things, so this class skill things that have the name of that particular item probably aren't going to be useful for filtering, so that's not bad. Probably not going to use this extra skill tag. That's on all three of them. Not useful. Here we go. Helper dot or name tag named knowledge skill, and that tag does not exist on perform. Over there's a similar perform skill tag. So let's use this one. Helper.skcat no. Skill category knowledge. Okay, over in the custom expression, we're going to say we still want to keep the base skill. So and then parentheses dot skcat no. So now we have a filter that will cover all things that are skills and all things that are knowledge skills.
Why the parentheses?
Huh?
Why the parentheses?
Actually, that's not actually necessary now, is it? It will be necessary in a minute. Oops, did I not? Oh, I deleted the space, not the parentheses. That's what's wrong. Sheesh. And we also want to offer the linguistic skill for selection, not just the knowledge skills. So back to the main window. Oh, right. There's an annoyance with you have to minimize. You can't just switch windows if you have these little floating info windows open. Okay, now we want to find the linguistic skill. So we want something that is unique to linguistics and not to any other skill. So probably the thing to use is just the base ID tag for the skill, which on everything in HeroLab is just thing, the word thing all in lowercase. Actually, thing ID, thing ID dot linguistic skill. So now put in parentheses. And then the pipe symbol, which is over on your keyboard next to the square bracket, to the right of the square brackets. That means or. So or linguistic skill. And put that part in parentheses because we still want the component.base skill to apply to everything. Save this. Test now. Okay. Okay, and our skill trait has a drop down, and you can see now that it offers a selection of all the knowledge skills that we've added to the character so far, plus linguistics. Okay, now let's actually do something with that selection. Actually, since what we want to do is add a +1 trait bonus and make it a class skill. So rather than coming up with that code ourselves, let's find another trait that says make the selection a class skill and give it a +1 trait bonus. So filter down for class skill. Okay, here's an existing trait, Child of the Temple, that says, and one of these skills, your choice, is always a class skill for you. So let's go copy that one. Okay, so the first line of code, first of all, look at the phase and priority. If you're doing the same thing as another skill or script, might as well start with the time they picked. Next is that the first line here is a done if we're disabled, so that if something else disables this trait, then it won't do anything. We want to keep that. Next thing is apply a trait bonus to the nobility skill and the religion skill. We don't want to keep that part. And then the last says from our chosen field, pick the chosen item, then assign it a tag that says helper.classSkill. That is what we want. So now that I've got that, I'm going to cut and paste all that. And I'm going to delete the thing I copied from, because if I don't delete it, that'll create an error because the ID will be incomplete. Go over to eval scripts, paste in that piece of script, and the other one had pre-levels 10,000. So now, actually, let me add a rank to knowledge history so we can see it. And let's make him a fighter, so that one rank of skill isn't an error message. Let's pick knowledge history. And you can see it's now a class skill, and we've got +4 instead of just +1. Okay, the next thing we want to do is give a +1 trait bonus to that selected skill. Actually, I'm going to get Child of the Temple back. Yeah, I do want to save it. And look again at it. Oops. Oh, right. Okay, didn't select the right thing. Look again at its skill, because it does add a +1 trait bonus to something. It's just not the thing we want to add it to. But we'll start with that piece of code. And then modify it. Okay, so how to change, so currently it's getting the nobility skill. We want to change that to whatever was chosen. So from this piece of code, we will borrow the whatever was chosen code, which is this, and paste it over here. Sorry, I shouldn't. Yeah. Okay, and select knowledge history again. go over to the skills list, and now you can see it's a +5 skill instead of just the +4 from ranks and class skill. Okay, let's add a part 2 to this trait. Let's have it make all knowledge skills usable untrained. So first we're going to find something that says can use a skill untrained. Trained. Nope, that's a specific skills can be untrained. Student. Yeah, well, that has all the way to all knowledge skills, so I don't want to copy. Yes, normally you would just copy the Bard one. I want to show you the process of figuring it out, but not all of the process. So. Oh well, I will go all the way to the Bard one. So that Bard one is a class of it related ability. It's a class special. Those are the permanent class abilities, the ones that you always get. And new copy, and that one is called, what is that one called? Bardic. What is Bardic Knowledge. Nope, that's the yeah. Okay, so looking at Bardic Knowledge, first it calculates the bonus for the bonus it grabs, then it does a little more with the bonus, then some if we're disabled, get out. Then the last part is a search through all the skills, or all the knowledge skills. So let me grab that part. This timing is pre-attributes 10,000, so I'm going to remember that. Delete this copy. Eval scripts, and create a second eval script. Paste that in. Pre-attributes 10,000. Oh, and I'm going to go back up to the other skill and grab that little stop in case we're disabled boilerplate and put it at the front as well. Okay, so what we're using to search here is a term or a little piece of code called for each. So for each of the things we find. And then we want the next thing says pick. This could be either pick or thing. Pick is all the picks that have been added to this specific character. Thing is all the things in the database that could potentially be added to the character. Then in hero, that's just kind of part of the in pick because we want to select all the things that are on this character. Then from, and you recognize base skill here as the same component we picked earlier in our other test. And then where, you recognize this helper.skill category knowledge as the same tag we identified earlier to isolate all the knowledge skills. This first line is add to the bonus of that skill, so we don't need that in our case. The second line says each of the picks we found, which is this each pick here, delete helper.trainOnly. And helper.trainOnly is the tag that says you can only be used untrained. And then the last line here says next each. Just basically, whenever you start a for each, all the code that happens in between that for each and the next each is what's going to be executed on each piece of each item it finds. So the next each is just the close of all that. So back at the skills, you'll see that all the knowledge skills can now be used untrained, and we've got the trait bonus and class skill for knowledge history, because that's our selection. So let's say we wanted to go modifying this selection expression, find something else. Let's see, let's say all weapons get a +1 trait bonus to hit. That's overpowered for a trait, but for purposes of...
Even for a feat, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, for a feat that's huge. Okay. So, first thing we need to do is we'll pick, actually, I'll add a couple of different weapons. Some that are useful in oops, I'll accidentally add 2 daggers. I guess we needed that. Okay, add several weapons. Now I'm going to look at these weapons. This time I'm going to look at their fields. And we're going to look for a field value that stores their attack bonus. And we're hopefully going to find a trait specific, or a trait bonus specific thing to that. So up here we see lots of things about size and quantity. That's not going to be it. Cost here, nope. No proficiency penalty, nope. Actually, that is here we can look at the value, and that is a table of various values. Actually, I happen to know what that really means. The 0 line means what would our attack bonus be if we were equipped in the main hand. I don't remember what the difference between 0 and 1 is. The line 2 is what would our attack bonus be if we were the offhand weapon and our main hand was light. Okay. So that's all stored in there. Okay, now we're getting into some things that look like attack bonuses. Here's for the bestiary monster creation for the whether we're high or low on our CR.
That was a great update.
Thank you. And then here we go. Weapon attack bonus. That sounds like a good backup, if we don't find something trait specific, we'll use that one. We're getting in some other attack bonuses, and you'll notice they have to be often have to be ranged and melee specific, because some things will add to ranged attack bonuses, and some will add melee. Here's tracker stuff for the weapon. Weapons don't really need trackers, but some of them might. Activations. Here we go. Trait bonus. That's a good one. And here's melee attack trait bonus. The way that's coded is attack AT for attack, M for melee, bonus trait. Because there has to be a different ranged attack trait bonus. Actually, so let's say ranged attack. Let's add a ranged attack trait bonus. So ATR Bond trait. Script number 2. And at this point, I'm actually just going to write down the field's value so that I don't have to memorize it. Then I'm going to go looking for more information. Okay, so what we want to do is identify all the we now want to identify first, we need a search term that covers all weapons and nothing else. Actually, I pointed that one out earlier. So we're going to look at the tags for several weapons. And on a longbow, you see that there's one of the component tags here is named weapon. Sounds like a good candidate. Let's make sure it's also on other weapons. Here it is on a dagger. And I already showed you that it's on unarmed strike. I'm going to delete this other script just for convenience so that it pops up immediately to the script we're working on. So instead of from all the skills, what we want to search is it was base wep, not base weapon. Okay, right? Or I got it right here, right? I can't. Oh, I wish there was I really want a way to go in here, select a specific tag, and copy it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That and field names.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the best way to go. Have it. Well, that's the underlying how does this work, and that's not something I know how to get into. I don't actually know C++, so convince my boss to do that. Yep. And then okay, so yes, I did get the right one. Now, because we're adding a ranged attack bonus, we probably want to find only the ranged weapons, not the melee weapons. So let's look again through the tags. And a dagger is a ranged weapon. So we're looking for something that says this is a ranged weapon. And here we go. Here is thrown weapon. W category dot range throw. Look at the longbow. W category dot range projectile weapon. So we don't have one tag that identifies all ranged weapons, but we've identified two different tags. And let's make sure by opening up a melee only weapon like the unarmed strike, make sure that we've picked the right tag. And there we go. W category dot melee and W category not unarmed, but not either of the range tags.
Did they always have this many tags?
Huh?
Unless you add more. Yeah. I was just curious, like if they started with them.
I think it has been increasing over the like component dot attack and damage modifiers got added only about 6 months or so ago.
I think they are different types of range.
Actually,
I'm not sure.
it's probably best to check. Let's add a pistol.
She just answered the question.
Yep. Actually, this one's from Numeria.
Nice.
Look.
Well, but the other one's stated price for
So 15?
Yeah. 15 PDF, I think.
Yeah, it's about
Okay, and the firearm has W category.range projectile. It also has W category.firearm. So the range search we've already identified will also catch all of the firearms.
But if you wanted bows but not pistols,
Then
actually,
actually to show you, I will show you that. Let's have this trait add to all projectile weapons and all thrown weapons, but not firearms.
Nice.
That'll be a little more complex.
Just for the firearm users, this is famous.
Okay, I'm going to delete the old one.
well, I don't know if it's something.
First is
Throwing pistols.
range proj, and then we could do or W range throw. But actually in Hero Lab there's an easier way to write that by using a wildcard. You'll notice that both of the tags start with the exact same first 5 letters. So let's let Hero Lab say I don't care what the last letters are. Just put a question mark, and from then on Hero Lab will match to any tag that matches the first 5. The question mark will also match empty sections after that. If you find, like, if it was wcategory.range done, and there was a range proj and a range throw, those would all match this question mark here. Oops. Okay, and now we want to add the not firearms. So we'll start with and W category dot firearm, but that's not what we want. We don't want things that are. This is currently all things that are ranged weapons and all things that are firearms. Yep. So back here, we put an exclamation point in front of this firearms. The exclamation point in one of these ands and ors things means not. So now we're saying find all of the picks in the hero that are from the base weapon category, where the weapon category has the range in it, and the weapon category, and it's not weapon category firearms. Delete this piece of that thing from our old one. And we're going to start this off again with each pick, because we want to make a modification to each of the things we find. And we're going to say plus equals 1. Actually, there's actually no. Yeah, we need to set that up. But this is a trait bonus, and trait bonuses don't actually stack with each other. So the plus equals, just simply adding 1 would mean that it would stack with anything else that added a trait bonus to this. So we need to set that up slightly differently. Oops, I deleted my other examples. But remember the apply bonus that we're using back on this when we were doing the skill modifier? That apply bonus macro will handle the no stacking for you. Actually, what it's actually doing in the code is it says this equals the maximum of what's there and what's been added. What? Okay, what key did I hit there? Oh, and apply bonus needs... Oh no, it doesn't need perform. Never mind. And so the field we're using is ATR bon trait. And then the thing we're selecting is each pick. And the amount of bonus to add is 1. I happen to know these macros off the top of my head for a lot of the common ones. You would probably be copying from an existing script and then modifying it.
Crossbows are perfectly good tunnel warfare weapons.
Okay. Right. Yep, so if we look over the longbow's attack bonus, it says +1 to hit from a trait bonus. Pistol's attack bonus, not there. Unarmed strike there. Dagger. Oops. Come on. Here it is. Trait bonus on ranged, but not on melee. Alright. That is the main things I wanted to show you. Basically, how to use the debug options to search for information about the things you're trying to find in the program, and how to have HeroLab do some searches for you, so you can apply a single change to lots of different things without going to each one individually, and so that you can offer a selection to the user. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to questions from the audience. If any of you guys have a project you're working on and are stuck on something, I can help you get past that. And I'm hoping that if you've got a problem, somebody else is encountering something similar, and that you'll help them that way. Otherwise, I will come up with some other ideas of my own to work on. Yep.
Where do you put in like favorite class on the editor?
Okay. There are actually 2 places to do favorite classes, because you may add a new class and you want to add all the favorite class bonuses to the existing races, or you might add a new race and add all the favorite class. You want to add all the favorite class bonuses for the existing classes. So we have it set up so that you can do it from either the races or the classes. Probably easier to show you from the races, because the classes have that whole new class creation wizard that'll be slow to show you. Actually, let me just make a copy of human and show you where they are on that. Oh, oops. Right, that's why I'm not seeing human race. I'm looking at the alternate racial traits tab. Sorry. Actually, ASMR is right at the top. Let's just grab that one. It's actually about 6 down from the top. Favored class options. Once you have so you would create favored class options. Where did we put those? I thought they'd be on either general or rate. Oh, we put them on the class tab. Okay, I guess they're more class related. So you would on the class section, favorite class options table, you would create your favorite class options. Then on either the race or the class, once you've finished those, go into favorite class bonus and select those things. And then it will add those to any character who selects that class or that race. And then they'll be available for selection in the table. Other questions? Okay. What's an interesting project to show you?
What about attribute?
That is not really doable from just the editor. The problem.
Yeah, you'd have to create a whole new game system that had 7 attributes.
Yeah, one of the I think we have some places in here where we've actually hard-coded the display of the attributes such that it only has enough space to show 6 of them. That's one of the major problems. Yeah, so that's why we haven't added an attributes tab in here, because there's other things you couldn't do with it. Like on a race, there's the strength modifier, dex modifier, and all those things in the editor. A user wouldn't be able to create a new field like that for the new attribute. Yeah.
There's a way to, I know there's spaces for other abilities. I wonder if you can type it in there and really track it. Like in the back.
So if I wanted to have spellcasting and something called essence.
That would be very complex. With enough work you could do it, but not really something I can show you in just an hour here. Okay. Actually, let's add a house rule somebody asked me about earlier today. Under this house rule, all characters get the effect of weapon finesse for free.
I'm playing at his house.
Okay. So first of all, let's go to the General tab and Feats, and make a copy of weapon finesse. Weapon finesse. Okay. Regular weapon finesse, not mythic weapon finesse. We're not that cool. Okay, and eval scripts, if we're disabled, do nothing. That part, and then actually it's just one line of code. Add a tag to the hero saying we have finesse, and remembering the timing, first 10,000. Cancel this. And now that I've copied it. Okay. One useful trick for adding a house rule is called mechanics. All mechanics are added to all characters, which means if you put a script on a mechanic, or if you bootstrap something to the mechanic, all characters will get that script or that bootstrap.
Does this then go in as a pick in the configurator?
Let me show you how to set that up. Yep. So we'll call it house rules. And I'll call it MJG, my initials, house. And then in the eval scripts, I'm going to paste in that piece of code from weapon finesse, and it was at first 10,000, if I remember correctly. Go back to the feats tab, double check. Yes, it was first 10,000. Okay. And then delete this feat so we don't accidentally save it while that's still unfixed. Save this.
I guess you can double traits or tags.
There are a couple of tags where it actually counts the number of a tag, and in that case it does matter, but usually it is looking for the presence or absence of that tag, and therefore it doesn't matter. Okay, the way to get this tied to the configure hero is to use the sources option, which is the bottom option on every editor tab. let's create a new source. Call it MJG house rules. House. Give it an ID. Save. File. Save. Unfortunately, things that are something that is auto added to every character, test now will not actually work on those. Test now is only good for things that can be added and deleted. So what we're going to do is leave the editor, go to the develop menu, and choose quick reload data files.
I noticed this is for Pathfinder. Is there any plans in the word add a section on all the editors that are out there?
Yeah, invalid unique. Yeah, I would really like the chance to get back to all the other game systems and modify them. And for 3.5, I'm sure it's on Shadow Kamash's list pretty high because he'll want it for his own work.
Yeah, I've been pretty consistent. Conditions on everything.
Yeah, because in D20 there's conditions that are added to every character, but they actually show up in a list. Mechanics never show up on any list, so they're handy for that. Okay, invalid unique ID. Ah, that was it. I had added that race to show you the things and not deleted it. Rather than quick reload from the menu, I happen to remember that the keyboard shortcut to that is Control R. And you'll probably learn that keyboard shortcut pretty quickly if you start working on an intermediate and advanced stuff in Hero Lab. Oops, actually we don't want to save. Don't want to save that character. Might as well just use the regular. Let me add a level of fighter. Buy him a rapier. Buy him a longsword. And give him a strength 14, dex 16. And you'll see over on the weapons that the attack bonus is +3 on both of those, which is what you'd expect for strength +2, BAB of +1. Now I'm going to go into the configure hero and turn on that house rules source that we linked to the mechanic. That mechanic, like I said, all mechanics are added to all characters, so that mechanic is already here. But what happens is that until you turn that source on, the mechanic is not live, so its effects aren't applied. Now that I've turned that on, you can see that the rapier's melee attack bonus is now +4, where the longsword is still +3. Yep, unarmed strike is a finessable weapon. Okay, unless anyone else has any other projects that you want me to or thought of something else to look at, I'll think of some other weird house rules that we can implement.
You're saying there's a class wizard now? Like big.
It's the same thing that's always.
Okay.
Whenever you create a class, it prompts you to enter the name and all that stuff, and that goes through a few extra things behind the scenes because you need to create both a class and a class level for every class you create. what's a good thing to show you guys?
Wanted to create a feat and say restrict it to, I don't know, orc fighters and barbarians. You would
Or
just put in tabs for whatever the race tab is for orc, and then the glass tab.
So create a feat and put the prerequisites of one prerequisite of must be an orc, and a second prerequisite of must be a fighter or a barbarian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't have orc sorcerers. That's the way you want to roll. I look forward to seeing your next character. Actually, I prefer the orc alchemy because the favorite last one is for alchemy. This is great.
Okay, so first thing to do in finding this one, let's think of some other feat that requires you to be an orc or a half-orc or just any old race. So I'm going to go to the feats tab and type in orc, and that doesn't help because the text, the three letters ORC, tend to show up in a lot of different things, so it takes a little while.
That's one right there.
So, Amplified Rage, is it okay for this one to be half-orcs as well as orcs?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
okay.
That's one of the few good things that orcs get.
Okay, so let's start with a copy of the Amplified Rage feat. It's not copyable, but you can open it long enough to grab the prereq. So in this case, it's under expression recs because it's a simple one line.
Has race.
Yep, has race orc. Cancel, delete. And paste it over here.
I don't know how to feel with the witch hashtagging his dungeon. The buffalo hashtag. It's like advertising.
Okay, and now that we've got that one in place, now we're looking for a feat that is fighter only or barbarian only or even wizard only, because we want to find some class-based prereq.
Well, the obvious one is specialization.
Yeah,
yep.
That's true. Can't go much worse than that. Right there.
And we'll look at its expression recs. Oh, that's weapon focus required. So look at its prereqs. It's a fighter level 4th required, which actually gets very complex because of all those weird archetypes and prestige classes that say, we count as a fighter for this thing, but not that thing, and not that thing, and that thing. But yes, this thing.
Yeah.
We're looking at
When I say top to Paizo. Oh yeah, they started it.
However, it looks like there is a very simple one for we're valid if we're a fighter of greater than equal to 4. Note that some places you may have seen the macro level count fighter. The difference between level count and feat level count is that a class like Magus, a Magus of 8th level or higher, just plain adds their Magus levels to their fighter levels for the purpose of picking weapon specialization and every other fighter feat. So the feat level count will find all the classes that count as fighter for the purpose of feats. Level count will only find fighter levels. So, actually, which of the...
I like Magus.
So,
That's annoyingly written.
which of those should we use for this feat, do you think? Or should a high-level Magus count for this feat, or just a fighter?
Sure. No, we can, if you find one Magus, or sure.
Okay, so copy that.
I don't think the orcs are quite that discriminatory. Shockingly.
Okay, in this case, we're not going to have we're going to have a little more complex feat. We're going to have an or inside the prereq. So we're not going to put it in the expression recs, because expression recs allow you to ask one question, and prereqs allow you to ask many questions. So I'm going to paste in that one line for fighter, and actually what I'm going to do, so the way this works, let me break this out into more complex code to show you what's actually going on. That valid if, or let me show you that again. So this valid if here is doing the exact same thing as this if then valid done and if statement. It's just faster to write the one-line version. So what it does is, if this test is successful, then first the @valid symbol is used in, it's actually used in prereqs, in expression recs, and in eval rules. When the script starts running, @valid is set to 0. If at the end of the script it is set to something other than 0, normally just 1, but actually it can be anything, then that prereq has been satisfied and is valid. So in this case, we're setting it to 1. Then we're using the done instruction, which is just says leave the script entirely at this point, and don't test anything else. And then end if to close the if. And so we'll use the short version here. So actually, what we can do is just copy this, paste in a second line, and instead of fighter,
Oops. I wonder if you noticed the lights.
my own, yeah, I use my PC at home, and that has a differently arranged keyboard.
Great.
And actually, this is still saying fighter level 4 required. So since we don't want any fighter levels, we'll just change those to 1s. Got any ideas for huh?
Not ups their natural armor by 1.
Sure.
At least color.
Although that's the way to write that is to find that feat for improved natural armor feat for monsters and cut and paste. So that would be 2.
What about increasing the reach by 5 foot? Would that be easier?
Yeah, that'll
More interesting.
More interesting to show off. There we go.
The 5 foot range. There's already enough speed for that. There's already enough.
Did I?
My friends actually did have one.
Okay, that's weird. Why isn't it showing up? Well, it should be showing up one way or the other, right?
Oh, it shows up in the down.
Yeah, they say it should show up grayed out.
Yeah, and it's not even showing up.
So you gotta scroll down.
Oh, that's true.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There it is.
This test character was a fighter, so he satisfies that one thing. Add it anyway, it's red, and then we'll go to the background tab. Yep, and the feeds tab is no longer red.
Awesome.
Okay, let's show how to improve this guy's natural reach for all weapons, which is impressive. But oh well.
Well,
now
he's already got that. I say he's already got that +1
to all ranged weapons, yeah.
and the built-in weapon finesse.
What would improve the range for unarmed?
Okay. Well, actually, let me show you first increasing the reach for all weapons, and then I'll show you how to make unarmed count as a reach weapon.
Only special weapons.
Okay, so you can see I'm trying right-clicking on the reach here, and nothing is happening because that's actually just presented data rather than some things in here, like the intelligence here is actually an item in a table. You're just not allowed. This table doesn't have a place to add new things to it.
That copy unique ID right there.
Yep. So yeah, also helpful to just go to the skill, grab the copy unique ID, or to want your favorite feat or weapon, all just available there. So we're going to look elsewhere for that piece of information. This is a numerical thing, so it's probably not stored as a tag anywhere. It's probably stored as a field. So we're going to look other places for fields. So under Develop, go down to the bottom to Floating Info Windows, and you'll see lots of different options. Useful thing. This show selection, list, tags, field, tasks. Those are all the same as you saw when I right-clicked a thing. This is just another way to get at that data. There are also a couple of things on the character. Like if I were to right-click on the race selection here, right-click, not left-click. It won't pop up a menu. That's actually something I hope we can change about these choosers, is to get that debug information easily. But as it is, there's nowhere on here that you can actually right-click and get the tags and fields on the half-orc race. So to get those, you would go to Develop, Floating Info Windows, Show Selection Tags, and then find half-orc, and that will pop up all the tags. But if you look at the show selection fields, rather than there are 916 of these, but I can tell you reach isn't stored as a specific pick. So yeah, this is just a first level character with a couple weapons and a couple feats, and there are already 916 things somewhere on the character doing various things.
Okay. I wonder if it's
Yeah. Well, that's because there are 3,000 races and 1,800 feats, and
That's because data sets not a bag.
Thank you.
yeah. Actually, the dataset being 90 megs has a lot to do with the stock portfolios. So all those encounter builder creatures, unfortunately, we don't have those separated out, so you get an update of those every time. Okay, right. So there is another place that there are fields. The hero, or fields and tags. That is the hero fields and tags. The hero means a kind of container that is holding everything else on the character. So a lot of the tags and fields that are there are pieces of information that apply character-wide. In this case, I happen to know reach is up here. So we're getting in here, we see here's the honor score, here's the current damage, here's the non-lethal hit points, field for hit dice. Yeah, there's the encumbrance stuff up there. Here's your cache store, or here's the data on the cache stored. There we go. T-reach, and then there's T-reach note, which is like for adding nodes to monsters. Like this monster has a 15-foot reach with its bite. So we want the T-reach field, which is on the hero. We'll create an eval script. Actually, let me write down T-reach before I forget it. Then let's pick a phase. Did you guys get the information about what phases there were in Aaron's seminar 2 days ago, or do you want me to go over that again? Go over that again. Okay. So in Hero Lab, all scripts, only one script actually runs at a time, and every script in Hero Lab runs in order. Hero Lab actually generates a list of all the scripts and what order they will run before running any of them. So the way Hero Lab determines that is by the phase and priority you assign to a script. It will go through each of the phases in order from descending from this first one down to the bottom of this list. And inside each phase, it will go from priority 0 to priority 1, priority 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 100, 1,000, whatever. If two things have the exact same phase and priority, Hero Lab will pick an order for them. You don't get to control that. Don't count on, even if your test comes out right, when you put one thing in, or you put two scripts at the same phase and priority and it happens to work, it often happens that on a specific character, it will stay consistent what order they are in. That order may not stay consistent for a different character. Because I'm not sure of the details, but I think it has to do with order that they were added to the character. Oh, it may also be different if you save it and reload it, which could change the order things were added in. Okay. So, yep. So, don't trust Hero Lab to pick the right order for you. You dictate the exact time it should happen, so that you know exactly what order they will always happen in.
So Hero Lab doesn't read the index value?
Actually, the index value, you see, I've created one script here. If I add another eval script, that has index 2, index 3, index 4. That's so that when Hero Lab says you have an error in your script, it can say it's an error in script number 3. And you know to look at that script, not one of the other 3 on your. So Hero Lab will automatically set a new index every time you create a new script. So you normally don't have to worry about that unless you're deleting and re-adding scripts. Just let it pick one. But each script must have a unique index value. That's the only difference. Okay. Actually, I think for this for this almost any phase of priority will work. I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick run through of what the phases are each used for. The ones that say parentheses users, those are an idea we had back when actually the D20 files were created. that didn't turn out to work as well as we expected. So my opinion is don't even use the ones that are parentheses users. They were an experiment that didn't pan out. Okay, the testing global tags phase, you'll almost never work. You as data file authors will probably never work in that phase unless you come up with something really weird, because that's when Hero Lab sets up some of the very basics, like we're using the APG, or the APG is not turned off or turned on. That's what's happening there. So you probably don't want to go back that early. The first phase is for all the initial setup. It's for setting up things that a lot of other things in the character will have to look up, like the size of the character. It's important to set that up early, because then you have to calculate the attributes based on it. You have to calculate the weapon damage based on it. So many things have to depend on that value that it needs to be calculated early. Next comes pre-levels. That's the levels phase is when Hero Lab is going to say, okay, we are a 4th level fighter. That means the base attack bonus from fighter is 4. We're also a 2nd level cleric, so that's going to be +1 more BAB from cleric. Therefore, our total is 5. That's happening in the levels phase. That and the save bonuses and all that stuff. So the pre-levels phase is in this time you want to get set up anything that stuff in the levels phase is going to need to look up. Like if you wanted to change the fortitude save progression of your fighter, because of your archetype says they're not so good at fortitude. You need to do that in the pre-levels phase, not because it needs to be in place for the levels phase. Pre-levels is also a good default if you are if you are just putting in a piece of information that nothing else will need to look up and needs to look up nothing else. You're just putting in a static value. Pre-levels is a good default. Post-levels, at this point, each of your class abilities knows that, hey, we're attached to a 4th level fighter, therefore we count as effective level 4, therefore we're bravery, and therefore we can calculate, therefore we have the information we need to calculate that we are level 2, or a +2 bravery, because we're on a 4th level fighter. Or is it plus? Oh well. Yeah, so post levels is where you'll put most of the scripts that are on class specials. Then in the attributes phase, that's when Hero Lab says, okay, the user selected the value of strength as 16, and they're a half-orc, and for their half-orc racial bonus, they picked strength. That's a +2, so therefore our total is 18. That's calculated in the attributes phase. And then very early in post-attributes, I think it's even post-attributes /0, is when it calculates, okay, we have a strength of 18, therefore our bonus is +4. And then the pre-attributes phase is if you're going to make a change to attributes, make sure you do it in pre-attributes or earlier. The post-attributes phase is for after the attributes are known. So that's your other common place to put scripts, because in the post-attributes phase, you know what level you're on, you know what level your class is on, you know what your attribute modifiers are on. So in most cases, you have all the information you need to make all your calculations. So post-attributes is a common phase to use. In the final phase, everything has been assembled, or everything has been set. Now let's assemble it into some of the final values. So this is when you set up your armor class, set up the weapon attack bonuses, set up weapon damage bonuses. All that's going on in the final phase. In the validation phase, you don't normally use for scripts. You normally only use it for eval rules. Eval rules are things that go around the character looking for testing things. It can make changes like a script. It also has a are we valid like a prereq. So for example, when you add a weapon focus feat and you get and it stays red until you've actually selected a weapon, and it gives you an error message until you selected a weapon, there's actually an eval rule in there saying, have we selected something? No. Then that's an error message. Give the user this error message. Eval rules that are only testing things, not doing any changes, they generally go in the validation phase. But if you're making changes to things, you generally don't want to go in there, because otherwise some eval rule might get confused as to what is the status of this thing. The render phase is the very last one. Render is, normally in the render phase, you only want to make changes to yourself. You don't want to go out and change other things, because all the values have been set out there. You only want to make changes to yourself. So that's a good time to, like, let's say you've got an ability that adds because of the level we're at, adds +1 per 2 levels. So you want to display the final bonus to the user. The render phase is a good time to generate the name that includes the bonus text. Okay, when to pick this script? We want to increase the reach. Like I said, the size is set early in the first, and I think the base size and reach is calculated early as well, soon after the size itself is set. So I think I'm going to try pre-levels first. We'll see if this works. If it doesn't, we'll try something else. If you don't know what priority to pick, my default is 10,000. That means you have lots of room in front of it and an infinite amount of room behind it to put if you find you need another script that must come before this thing you've created, but still in the same phase. You've got 9,999 other priorities you can put it at, or if you find it has to come after, you got an infinite number of priorities to put it at.
Okay.
So lots of space to work. Okay. Because this is a field on the hero that we're altering, there's actually a special way to get to that, which is just called hero field, all one word, and then open the brackets like you normally would for a field, and then dot value. We want to say plus equals 5 feet. Compiling. Yes, there we go. Okay. So we do have the feet, and our reach has not changed. So let's add a few debugs, or use the debugging tools to figure out what's going on here. The debug instruction means send me some information in the debugging script, or in the debugging output. Back over the character. go to develop, floating info windows, show debug output. That is curious because it says 5 and 10.
Could it be that it's copying that 5-foot reach into that field later than our script?
Yeah, I'll bet what's happening here is that when the hero says, okay, we're size medium, therefore we're reach 5, that's happening after this, and it's using an equals, not a plus. So what I'm going to do is move this script later. Let's go all the way to post attributes 10,000. Yeah, we've got about 10 minutes left, so the next seminar's scratching at the door.
We know how that is.
No luck. Interesting.
So we have to reload the whole thing. Maybe reading all the way. Maybe reading all the way back.
I don't think we would have made a change like that. Yeah. Yep. And there's one more trick I'll show you if this doesn't work. Actually, I should show you it anyway.
Just freaking remember.
And remind me.
Yeah. Right? You know, in 2 weeks, I'll be like, you don't have a 10-foot reach means nothing.
Okay.
Where did you come up with that?
Oh, right. Whoops. You tried to program it.
So that didn't work either. I don't think this is going to be. Yeah, that's not going to be useful. The show tasks on active hero is absolutely every script on the character. So, not very useful to look through.
Man, I don't like where's one of that much.
Okay, so among the selection picks, I'm going to look for actually the one named hero. And I'm going to look at its tasks. So this is all the scripts that are on the hero itself. Start at the bottom, and I'm just going to look for a script with the right name. Actually, you can see how many validation scripts are on the hero. This is where most of that, all those value rules I mentioned, a lot of them are on here. Honor points, APL. Yeah. At this point, I actually ask on the forums, and I will look it up in the raw code and figure out what's going on here, because I'm not sure why this isn't working. Yeah, sorry about that.
No, I was thinking about that.
Yeah. Well, let's do the unarmed strike gets reach.
Yeah. Okay. That'll be easy.
This one I know how to do. Strike. Actually, I'm going to pull up a reach weapon.
Grab and fight. Rifle on yesterday. That combined really well. This thing is lunge. Just call it come here.
So, add a Guisarme, which is a reach weapon. Then I'm going to look at the tags on it.
Thought no take weapons to an open house.
And actually, let's say battle axes get reach. Is this one? Because unarmed, you know there's exactly one unarmed strike on every character. Battle axes, you don't know how many battle axes there are on a character, so you want to make sure you change all of them.
Not to mention that makes a certain amount of sense. You could like choke up way down, drop down low to the very bottom of the axe. Like get a couple extra.
Okay, so on the Guisarme, we're looking for something that says it is a reach weapon. And there it is. It happens to be W category.reach. Then we're going to add a battle axe.
Probably battle axe isn't like a racial background thing. No, like they just come born with it.
We're also going to add a +1 battle axe.
I don't usually go for two-handed weapons with a wizard, but that's cool. There's a feat somewhere in Dragon Magazine for clerics that they can have their holy scroll on their weapon, use two-handed weapons and count them as their divine focus. And it's like, that's sick.
Okay, so I've pulled up a battle axe and a +1 battle axe, and I'm looking through the tags on each one. I want to find something that identifies this is a battle axe, or this is the battle axe type of weapon, but that doesn't exist over here on longsword. And actually, the most useful one for weapons happens to come up pretty early in this list. It's is weapon. That's the tag that says this count.
Is weapon a battle axe?
Yep. That's also useful for something like the butterfly knife, which is an exotic weapon, but counts as a knife for proficiency, except that if you take exotic in it, you get some special abilities. That uses the is weapon tag to say we count as a knife. And because of that count as, the way our feat works, anything that counts as a battle axe would get the effects.
Since it can be used as a martial weapon two-handed or exotic weapon one-handed.
But nobody's taken a katana in my game like ever.
Do we have? Oh, right. We have a Heroes of the Jade Oath katana and regular katana because I've got all the stuff loaded.
And the Jade Oath katanas are better.
Apparently so.
Yeah,
I was gonna
there
say,
it is.
they're 1d10.
That was on there. Yeah, there's
Jade Oath is
So it looks like not. Looks like the katana just has is weapon.
yeah.
Actually, I think what it does, there's some code that we wrote for Bastard Sword that said that easy. Yeah, here it is. Easy two-handed,
Oh, cool.
which is yep.
Yeah.
We're about to be chased out, so
Not as impressive as yeah, really? Do you know why you fold metal? To get rid of the impurities when you blacksmith. Your weapon's good.
Your metal's good.
Yeah. At least. That's where it matters. Damascus, high carbon steel. Vikings picked it up. That stuff's crazy. For the time. Now it's just gone.
I don't think actually don't think I'm correct on that AD. So I've selected this text. Click find thing.
So
Search narrow my search down to weapons, and then narrow it further to battle axe, and then insert ID. And I did happen to be correct, but better safe.
That's still a cool trick to know.
Yep, the find thing is very useful to not have to remember all those IDs.
There are a number of times where I'll just create a script just so I can go and find an ID and use it somewhere else.
Okay, so as this search is for all of the picks in the hero that are from the base weapon category, where they have the isweapon.battleaxe tag. So they count as a battle axe. Form pick.assign, and that was the W category.reach tag. Next each to close the for each. Okay, yeah. Actually, at this point, I'm just showing you that it works. I don't think I've got any errors left. So, yeah.
Sure they programs
As if
all
it
those
doesn't know
things.
how to reach.
Yeah, on
Yep.
the boards. While he's safe at home, miles away.
Yep. So now, if we look at the information on a battle axe, you'll see that it's a melee reach weapon.
Hey, surprise the hell out of your players. Fun games and parties.
So, thank you all for coming. I hope it was useful to you.
Thanks for watching our Gen Con 2014 seminar, Hero Lab, Advanced Tips and Tricks for Adding Your Own Content. Be sure to explore the other videos on our channel, and make sure to check out Hero Lab at www.getherolab.com.